In the meantime, some Conservative MPs have had some surprise company dropping by their office this week. Heritage Minister James Moore and MP Andrew Saxon played unwilling host to marijuana activists. The activists are protesting the extradition of a man named Marc Emery. He is known as the Prince of Pot. Emery is currently in a Vancouver detention center. He's expected to be, there he is, dressed up as a pot plant there. He's expected to be deported to the U.S. in coming weeks. There he is outside of costume. The activists want Canadians across the country to stage sit-ins at MP offices. And we've got two of the organizers sitting in our Vancouver studio now. Jacob Hunter is from whyprohibition.ca, and Jeremiah Vandermeer is the editor of Canada Culture magazine. Cannabis Culture magazine. Jeremiah, let me start with you. Sorry about that.
Sure.
This is the Free Marc campaign. Give us an idea of what you're campaigning for and what you're doing at the MP's offices.
Well, we're going around to the MP's offices because we want to send a very strong message to the Conservative Party of Canada, who has declared a culture war on the cannabis community and on young people. And so we want the Conservative Party to know that as long as they're sending harmless Canadians to prison and continuing this phony drug war, we are going to be relentless, and we are going to try and get as many Canadians to go to the polls and vote them out of power.
All right, Jacob, being relentless, what does that mean? Give us an idea of how many people have been at these protests and what goes on there.
Well, we've sent hundreds of thousands of pieces of correspondence over the last 5 years. They've been summarily ignored by this Conservative Party. So what we're doing is we're taking it to their offices. We've had hundreds of participants so far. Today there were 3 Member of Parliament offices occupied or sat in, although I should note that 5 in Vancouver were actually closed for the day so that their staff could take an impromptu, I guess prorogation would be the word, because they were afraid of having protesters there. And I think that's a really sad commentary on the state of the Conservative Party's respect for right to protest.
All right, now respect for right of protest. I mean, obviously there's a couple different views in here. You were at the Heritage Minister James Moore's office. I've heard that people were rolling joints on his desk. Some people have said, hey, that's not really helping your cause. What do you say to that?
They were medical marijuana users. And I mean, the fact is this is a government that has categorically attacked medical marijuana users, has categorically attacked the marijuana culture, and is sending Marc Emery to jail for 5 years for selling seeds. I think that if people want to roll joints on James Moore's desk, certainly I think that's a valid act of expression. I think what they're trying to say is that, look, this isn't dangerous enough to be sending people to jail for. This isn't dangerous enough to be sending people to the U.S. for. Yeah,
but Jeremiah, let's keep in mind here that the Canadian government is only extraditing Marc Emery. They're not sending him to jail. They're fulfilling an extradition wish from the U.S., and the U.S. is throwing him into jail, right?
Well, kind of, but the Canadian government are the ones handing him over. They have the power to stop this from happening. Just recently, another Canadian was arrested and charged with selling marijuana seeds on the internet, and he was given a $200 fine. So that's the difference. What the United States government wants to do to Marc, the Conservatives know very well. As part of his deal, he could look at 5 years in prison there or more. So the Conservatives have the power to stop this, and they haven't. And in fact, the Conservatives could have sent him down on just one charge, is what they were asking for. And instead, they sent him down on 3 different charges, all 3 of them. And so, we're very worried about what's going to happen to Marc when he gets down there.
Jacob, how far does this go? I mean, this is a bit, sit-ins at MP's offices, as you did. You were, by the way, at Andrew Saxon's office in North Van today. He wasn't there. But how far will this go? Will you continue to do this until Marc Emery is free, or what's the plan here?
Well, absolutely. We don't expect to change anyone's mind through these sit-ins. The Conservatives are fairly notoriously stubborn. We're going to continue to do this until there's an election, and then instead of going into their offices, we're going to be campaigning against them. We want this Conservative Party to know that we're upset, and we're not going to take this anymore. We're not going to just sit back and send phone calls and emails. We're going to campaign against them as hard as we can so we can get a different government that will bring Marc home.
All right, bring Marc home, but is this about Marc Emery, or is this about... Is it about medical marijuana, or is it about decriminalizing marijuana? I mean, exactly what is it that your group wants?
This is about a lot of different things. Well, first of all, this is about non-violent Canadians going to prison for flower crimes, people who smoke marijuana going to jail. The Conservatives have just been pushing a bill called S10. They've just re-announced their bill. It's basically the same as C15, which was the one they were pushing last time. And this bill has mandatory minimum sentences for as few as growing 6 plants. So they want to put Canadians who are growing 6 plants in jail, mandatory minimums for 6 months. And for making hash cookies, it's 18 months in jail. So it's about nonviolent people going to jail. And Marc has been made an example to our community because he's a very loud activist, and he puts the message out there of legalization, so people know him for it. So they're trying to make an example of him. But this is about the hundreds of thousands of people who go to prison for cannabis crimes.
Can I just ask you guys one question? I get it's about medical marijuana, it's about Marc Emery and that, but what about, decriminalizing marijuana? Just one thing, for parents out there saying, there's big concerns about drinking and driving. What about getting high and driving? Isn't that dangerous? If pot was legal and people could get behind the wheel and drive, isn't that dangerous? Isn't that something the government should be concerned about, Jacob?
Well, absolutely, and they can address that through regulation. And I'd point out that tobacco use rates have gone down through regulation and education, while marijuana rates have gone up. People binge drink on alcohol in this country, and it's still legal. The fact is that the criminal law power is simply an ineffective way of dealing with these problems. Is marijuana perfect? Absolutely not. Nothing is. The problem is it's completely unregulated. There is nothing stopping people from being able to smoke and drive right now because there are no regulations on marijuana. And that's exactly what you can address with legal substances. You can control who can buy it, where they can buy it, how old they have to be to consume it, and what other rules apply around it.
All right,
and instead they've chosen to throw people in jail for it.
Jeremy, we've got 10 seconds here. How many people have joined behind your protest?
Oh, there's thousands of Canadians who have, well, our particular protest today, there was probably about 50 people out there, and we had a few in the office before, but this was kind of an impromptu thing that we've just started. But there are thousands of Canadians who support Marc Emery and support our cause, and hundreds of thousands in Canada and the U.S., maybe millions.
All right, we'll be watching this closely. Jacob Hunter from whyprohibition.ca and Jeremiah Vandermeer, editor of Cannabis Culture magazine. They were at a protest at the MP Andrew Saxon's this week in North Van, and also at the Culture Minister's earlier in the week. Thanks, gentlemen, for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.